through different mechanisms to survive in the human body, and their eggs have got particular shapes and sizes we will discuss, and then we are able to diagnose and treat these worms. So broadly speaking, we can classify helminths. What helminths we are discussing today are the two groups. So these groups are nematodes and cestodes. Nematodes, or they are also known as roundworms, and cestodes are known as tapeworms, or they are, because they are plate-like, they are also known as platyhelminths, or plate-like or flat. And again, both of these are divided into intestinal nematodes and blood and tissue nematodes. Cestodes are again divided into intestinal and tissue. We will be discussing only intestinal nematodes and intestinal cestodes in today's lecture. Okay? So the intestinal nematodes that are common or commonly found are these 6 groups: Enterobius, Trichinosis, Ascaris, Ankylostoma and Nectar, Strongyloidiasis, and Trichinella. We will discuss these individually and then their characteristic one by one. So they are known as roundworms. They are tube-like or cylindrical. You can see, like you must have seen in your gardens or walking around the open space or fields, you must have observed the earthworms. So these are something like that, but they are little smaller than those. So they are roundworm, cylindrical body. They have got complete digestive system with mouth and anus, and their body is covered with highly resistant coating containing cuticle. So why this highly resistant coating? Because they have to survive usually in the intestine or large intestine. So they have to resist all the enzymes and juices that are present. So they must have this highly resistant body or covering to survive. Okay. So they have got separate sex, that is male and female are separate, and female is usually larger and male is smaller. Trichinosis and Ascaris are transmitted through the ingestion of eggs, while the rest of them, the rest 4 of them, they enter the body through larva. Okay. Some of them have got 2-stage rhabditiform larvae, which is also known as feeding stage, but that stage is non-infectious. Rhabditiform larva stage is non-infectious, while the 3rd stage, which is also known as flariform larva, and this larva is infectious and it is non-feeding stage. Okay? Up to this point, you are clear? Please type your response in your chat box so that I'm able to understand that you are following everything. Okay? So, yes. Okay. We'll move forward. Adult in the body cause disease, and certain worms migrate in the tissue like Strongyloides, Trichinella, Ascaris, and 2 hookworms known as Ankylostoma duodenale and Nectar americans or Nectar. They cause striking increase in eosinophils. So why there is increase in the eosinophil? When you will ask the patient to bring their CP report or complete blood picture or CBC, what you will observe that eosinophil number will be strikingly high in these infections like Strongyloides, Trichinella, Ascaris, and the hookworm infection. So why it is increasing? Because it's a foreign body. So body's response is to combat that infection and to overcome the infection. So these things come into play. What happened? Eosinophils not exactly killing the parasite or the organism, but it binds with IgE. It binds with IgE and then attaches to the surface of the parasite. And there is, through the helper T cell, type 2, helper type 2 cells, they release interleukin 4 and interleukin 5. Interleukin 4 is responsible for increased level of IgE in the body, and interleukin 5 increases the eosinophil level in the body. And plus, the worm itself, it releases cytosine proteases. This cytosine protease also increases the level of interleukin 5. And in the eosinophils, they release cytotoxic enzyme and which try to hit the parasite, but they cannot actually kill the parasite. So this is more like a eosinophil level when it is increased in your patient's CBC. So it should ring a bell in your mind that maybe this person is suffering from either some allergic disease, some parasitic infestation, or thing like that. So you have to fit it according to the complaints of the patient. But usually it is increased in parasitic infection. So there are three things: allergic reaction, some kind of skin infections, and parasitic infestation. In all of these conditions, the eosinophil level will be increased. Now coming towards the first nematode is Antrobius vermicularis. Please remember these words also, because these are the common English names which are given to this particular type of worm infections, which everybody can understand. Okay, there are some medical terminology, and then there is common English name, which if you know, it is better. So the disease will be called a pinworm infection. Now the question arises, why we are calling it a pinworm infection? Because the size is very small, just like a common pin that is used in or a paper. In papers we bind, we stick this pin in the papers. The size is just like that. That is half an inch. The size is very small. And the disease will be ending with -iasis. Like this infection is called by Antrobius. So we will call the disease, if someone is suffering from this worm infestation, we will call it as Antrobiasis, teniasis, like, and every -iasis. Like if there is inflammation, we call that condition with itis, like thrombophlebitis, like arthritis. All the inflammation end with itis. Here, the parasitic infection, we will call it as -iasis, Antrobiasis. Okay. So infection only occurs in humans, a worldwide distribution, common in children under 12 years, and the size of the worm is half an inch, and they are white in color. Okay. So transmission is through the ingestion of worm eggs, and clinical findings will be perianal pruritus, because this worm oozes certain enzymes that will cause extreme itching. So there is perianal. So why perianal? To understand this, you have to understand the life cycle of this worm. What happens when the female hatches the eggs? What happens, this female, after mating, this female at night time comes out of the anus and deposit its eggs around the anus. And the interesting thing about it, that these eggs are mature worms in 6 hours. They get mature, these larvae get mature in 6 hours. So if the female is hatching eggs around 12 o'clock at night and depositing it around the anus, and the first nematode, the characteristic of this worm I was discussing with you, and the lab diagnosis, what we will do for the diagnosis of such kind of infection. Usually it is in the preschool, common in preschool children. Okay, so what we do, because I told you that females come out of the anus in the night time and deposits the egg and goes back again, okay, in the intestine.
Excuse me,
so
madam.
what hello जी
जी मैडम
आपको आवाज
प्रेजेंटेशन
आ
फुल स्क्रीन जी मैडम प्रेजेंटेशन मैडम फुल स्क्रीन कर दीजिए
जी जी सही सही ठीक है
ओके मैडम अब ठीक
सही 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 ठीक है so what we can do is we ask the patient to come in the lab, and what we do is take a scotch tape and tape it at the buttock side where the anus is, and then take out the scotch tape and apply it on a slide. The larvae are alive and motile, and you can watch them under the microscope like that. And this technique is very old, weird, but it works. So this is famous scotch tape technique, which is used for Enterobius vermicularis. Eggs may not be found in the stool DR because they are hatched and they become larvae within 6 hours. They are small, whitish adult worms can be found in the stool or near the anus of diapered children. Treatment is mebendazole. Please keep in mind that all of the treatment which is an anti-helminthic, usually similar drugs are given just to drugs which act on the CNS of the worm so that the worm become dizzy and should be expelled out of the body. Okay. So the treatment is mebendazole, and the other details you will be studying in your pharma lectures. Okay, so here it is. The eggs are released in the environment, which is a diagnostic stage here. And if embryonated eggs, if they are ingested, because the patient is scratching the anal area, and if the hands are not washed, proper hygiene is not observed, then they can lead to auto-infection. Okay, you can see that female is larger than the male, and male has got a curved tail here. These adults, they live in cecum part of the intestine, and then this gravid female, it comes out of the anus, deposits the eggs, and goes back. Okay. So these are the eggs which are seen. You can see the curled up larva inside the egg. Okay, developing larva. It is here. Scotch tape technique. This is scotch tape, which is applied at the buttock part of the kid, and then taken out and applied on the slide, and the slide is observed under the microscope. Second worm is Trichinosis. Trichinosis, the other common English name for it is whipworm infection. It's just like a whip, like a stout proximal part, and then the I shouldn't say proximal and distal part. The anterior part is just like a thin whip-like, and the other part is stout, thick and stout. Transmission: ingested worm eggs in food, water contaminated with human feces. Clinical findings will be diarrhea, and in children, because the infection is like so many worms are, the patient is infested with high worm load, it can lead to rectal prolapse in children. So that's the main complication in trichuriasis. Okay, whipworm. And the disease we call as trichuriasis. Laboratory diagnosis: barrel or lemon-shaped eggs in the stool, and treatment is mebendazole. So prevention in all of these worm infestation will be prevention of freshwater bodies of water should not be contaminated with human feces. Okay, proper disposal of the human feces. We should not be in the open so that other animals can consume it, or the grass may be contaminated. So these eggs shouldn't be like in the human and causing infections. Okay, so here you can see the diagnostic stage is this: unembryonated eggs are passed, which is the diagnostic stage. You can appreciate that this is a barrel-shaped egg having two mucus plugs on both the ends. Okay, unembryonated eggs is here, and then I told you two-stage rabidity-form larva and then clariform larva, which is infective stage. Here you can say the larva is curled up here after development in the environment, and it develops here, and then if it is being ingested accidentally, can cause infection. Larvae hatch in the small intestine, develop into male and female, and the female releases eggs in the feces. Okay, Trichurious. Now the third worm is Ascaris lumbricoides. Ascaris lumbricoides, the disease it causes is known as ascariasis, and in common English we call it a giant worm. And the largest, it is also largest intestinal nematode, can reach up to 25 centimeter. 25 centimeter is like 1 inch short of foot, 1 foot. It is like 12 inches long. Okay, or you can say 11 inches long, around that measurement. Transmission: ingesting worm eggs in food, water contaminated with human feces. Eggs hatch in the intestine, and larvae migrate through the bloodstream to lungs. After lungs, go to trachea, and then swallowed through the pharynx into the intestine and develop there. Okay, Ascaris lumbricoides. They are giant roundworms, largest intestinal nematode, and its size can be up to 25 centimeters. Clinical findings: because it goes into trachea and lungs, can cause pneumonia, malnutrition, intestinal obstruction, because they grow into large numbers. They grow into large numbers, form bunches, and then they can block the intestine. Sometimes they can cause even appendicitis when they block the lumen of the appendix. They can cause appendicitis. Diagnosis: presence of oval eggs with irregular surface in the stool. Treatment is mebendazole, and prevention is proper disposal of feces. So you can see the irregular surface. Sometime when we were in practice in labs, we used to remember like it has a shape of like 10 paisa coin. Maybe you haven't seen the 10 paisa, but your parents must have seen, or you must have this coin at your home somewhere. So you can see it has a surface like this. And they grow into large numbers, into bunches, and then they can block the lumen of intestine, causing intestinal obstruction or acute appendicitis. Now the fourth one is ankylostoma and nectar. They are hookworms because they have hooks. Through those hooks, they acquire the anchorage, or they get attached to the intestinal lumen, and they deprive the human being from their nutrition or blood or whatever they want to. Larvae penetrate the skin. Here you should remember, it's not ingestion of eggs. I told you in the beginning of the lecture that few infections are through the ingestion of eggs, while others is due to penetration of larvae through the skin of the feet, and then they are carried in the bloodstream to the lungs, trachea, and during this travel they develop, and then they are swallowed and they develop into adults in the intestine, and they attach to the intestinal wall by teeth or cutting plates. Okay, so they have a particular structure, which is teeth or cutting plates. Clinical findings will be weakness, anemia, ground itch, because they enter into the body through the feet, the skin of the feet, and then through the bloodstream go into lungs and trachea, and then swallowed back into the intestine. Laboratory diagnosis: eggs in stool, occult blood in stool, because they keep on taking up blood for their survival. So they deprive the human being their blood or hemoglobin. So the resulting microcytic anemia is there. Okay. So prevention is the general rule, like disposal of feces properly. Major damage is blood loss, because 0.1 to 0.3 ml per worm per day is lost. And you saw that how many worms were there. Maybe that patient is not having that much abundance of the worms, but one worm can like suck 0.1 to 0.3 ml of blood per worm. Worms secrete anticoagulant, and blood oozes at the site where this worm is attached in the intestine, causes microcytic anemia. So the life cycle, you can see the infected person is releasing eggs in the environment. They develop into rabidiform larva, and then flariform or non-feeding stage or developed stage. These developed infectious larvae, they penetrate the skin of the foot and goes into the circulation and cause problem. Okay, and here those I and D are not shown, but the sign like this, like infectious stage, and the diagnostic stage is here when we find eggs in the stool. So what happens in a diagrammatic way, flariform larvae, they penetrate the skin, go to the circulation, to lungs, trachea, through the pharynx, swallowed into the intestine, attached to small intestine, develop into male and female, they mate together, and then female deposits the egg, which are released into the environment. If the person is not hygiene aware, or due to poverty, overcrowding, there are multiple factors to those things, and then these they develop into rabidity-form, and rabidity-form into infected flariform. So lesion in the skin, because they penetrate the skin of the foot, they cause ground itch, or ankylosing dermatitis occurs at the site of entry of the parasite, or there is creeping eruption along the route which is taken by the parasite. The eruption will be there, reddish itchy papule along the path. You can see here in this foot creeping eruption, or larva migrans, because it migrates or travels. Okay, in lungs they cause bronchitis and bronchopneumonia. Egg of ankylostoma will be like this, and these are the mature female and male worms in the intestine. Now the fifth one is the Strongyloides. Strongyloidiasis is the disease, and transmission larvae penetrate the skin similar to the hookworm infection. Swallowed in the small intestine, they become adults, penetrate the intestinal wall, and migrate to lungs and cause autoinfection. So here the different thing is that they can penetrate the intestinal wall, go to the respiratory system or lungs, and migrate to lungs and cause autoinfection. Clinical findings will be watery diarrhea, pruritus, and pneumonitis. Laboratory diagnosis: larvae in the stool and Eosinophilia. So this was the Strongyloides. It is somewhat similar to hookworm infection. This is Strongyloides. Now the sixth one is Trichinella. The disease it causes is known as trichinosis. Okay, and transmission is eating raw or undercooked meat, pig or any mammal containing larvae. Eggs hatch within the female and larvae spread via circulation. Clinical findings will be diarrhea, eosinophilia, periorbital edema, subconjunctival hemorrhages. Lab diagnosis: muscle biopsy reveals larvae within the striated muscle. So here it is little complicated. Countries where pig is taken up as food, these parasites are in the striated muscle of that pig. They are being ingested, not knowing whether the animal was infected. Ingestion of undercooked meat, that is pork, and then larvae are released in small intestine, develop into male female, and then gravid female releases eggs in the environment, and these rodents, they take up those and they are eaten up by the pig. So that's how it happens. Trichinella, in histopathological sample, you will find the larvae in the tissues like this. So before moving towards cestodes, tell me something particular about Enterobius vermicularis. There was one question from Aliza Shahrukh. Ma'am, please, why does the female lay her eggs in perianal skin and not in colon? As I told you in the beginning of the lecture, every worm has got its particular style or characteristic. So that is particular for Enterobius. I don't know the reason, exact reason, but this happens. So if you find, you can share with me. Okay. Can you tell me what is particular about Enterobius vermicularis? Perianal itching entropius vermicosus पे to write is, it is that the female deposits the eggs around anus and they develop into worms in 6 hours. That is amazing thing that's happening there. Okay. And Muiz, I'm still waiting for your chocolates. You promised. Okay. Very small pinworm. Okay. Now tell me, what is the common name for Ascaris lumbricoides? What do we call it in common English? Second question. Giant worm. Zohra Anas. Thank you. Thank you. Roundworm or giant worm, because it's big in size. That's why. Giant. Thank you. Last question, last answer was given by Muhammad Huzaifa. Saad Irfan, Sharka Firdaus. Thank you. ठीक है. समझ में आ गया कि आपको समझ में आ रहा है. अब हम नेक्स्ट सेक्शन पे चलते हैं जो कि सिस्टोड्स हैं, और उसमें भी हम 4 पैरासाइट को डिस्कस करेंगे आज. ठीक है, तो विल स्टार्ट विद द सिस्टोड्स. They are flat, plate-like, and they can grow into this much size. Can you imagine? This big. It's huge. अच्छा, मैं इसके बारे में एक इंटरेस्टिंग चीज बताऊंगी और आप उसको याद रखिएगा. हो सकता है फिर मैं पूछूं आपसे. In 1930s, these worms were taken by the like entertainment world, you can say. People in the entertainment world, they were taken as a medium for keeping themselves slim. These worms were taken. So I have taken this advertisement from the internet, and these were used. And interesting thing is that it is written sanitized tapeworms. Sanitized. I don't know how they sanitize them. It was different and it was interesting. That's why I kept it here in my PowerPoint. Okay, so 2 big groups, Pseudophilidian, and it includes D. latum and S. Schistosoma mansoni, and Cyclophilidian or cup-like suckers, leaf-like grooves or cup-like suckers. Cup-like suckers, these parasites have got cup-like suckers. Solium, Tinea solium, Tinea sezonata, Echinococcus granulosus, Hymenolapsus nana, and diminuta. These are the viruses, but we are not discussing each one by one. Only the groups will be taken up. Okay, so journal introduction about these flatworms or platyhelminths. Platy means plate-like or flat. They are cystodes or ribbon-like, and they are hermaphrodite. That means the sex is different. Male, female in nematodes were separate, but here in cystodes, male and female sexes are in the same parasite. And body has got 2 parts. One is a scolex, which is head part, and a flat body with multiple segments or proglottids. Each of them, they are known as proglottids. Through the head part, they get the anchorage in the body, in the human body. They anchor themselves in some part of the intestine or wherever particularly they are going. And then proglottids, they have got the germinal center. This proglottid will keep on adding other proglottids. And the terminal one has got the gravid uterine branches having eggs, and they are released. Okay, आप ये इस तरह से समझ लो कि जैसे डॉट मैट्रिक्स का जो प्रिंटर है, किसी को अगर याद है कुछ साल पहले तक डॉट मैट्रिक्स यूज होता था, कनेक्टेड पेपर्स होते थे, उसमें अलग अलग पेपर नहीं होते थे जिस तरह अभी लेजर प्रिंटर में होते हैं, वैसे उसमें कनेक्टेड पेपर होते थे। आप इस वर्म को ऐसे समझ लो कि ये एक डॉट मैट्रिक्स का पेपर जैसे निकलता है, इस तरह से इसके प्रोग्लॉटिड्स ऊपर से ऐड होते रहते हैं, और जो डिस्टल वन है वो मेच्योर वन होता है, और वो एग्स रिलीज करेगा एनवायरमेंट में, एंड विच इज अगेन इन्फेक्शियस for other people which come into contact with them. So the worm grows by adding new proglottids from its germinal center next to the scolex. Oldest are the distal proglottids, which are gravid, release thousands of eggs to be transmitted to intermediate host, cattle, pig, fish. ये different type के animal के through transmit होगा. Some parasites prefer pig, and they are found in the muscle of the pig, and some are found in the beef muscle, and the other one is found in the fish. Okay, so ये हमने सारी चीज डिस्कस कर ली। इसमें कोई डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम नहीं होता, कोई बॉडी कैविटी नहीं होती, वेल डेवलप्ड रिप्रोडक्टिव सिस्टम नहीं होता, ये अंदर ही अंदर हर्मोफ्रोडाइट है, खुद ब खुद हो जाता है ऑटोमेटिकली सब चीज। ठीक है, दिस वी हैव डिस्कस्ड। टू इंपॉर्टेंट डिजीजेस, सिस्टिसर्कोसिस एंड हाइड्रेटेड डिजीज। We will discuss hydrated disease today in the end, and cysticercosis will be discussed in our next Friday's lecture. So the four important cystodes are Taenia solium, Taenia saginata, Diphyllobothrium latum, and Echinococcus granulosus. The disease caused by Taenia solium and saginata is Taeniasis. Okay. So I was telling you these suckers, or they are just like empty cups. They can get attached with the lumen of the intestine and derive their nutrition from there. And in Taenia solium, there is a row of hooks, which is this one. 4 suckers are here, and then additional hooks are there, and they anchor themselves through these hooks and suckers to deprive the host from its nutrition. ये उसको सारी चीजें खींचने के लिए है, उसमें से सब लेने के लिए है उसकी न्यूट्रिशन। So इसमें in Taenia solium, what happens? This left one, you can see there is invaginated scolex. So when the conditions are favorable, it comes out. It comes out, and then it is ready to infect and anchor in the intestine. Here you can see the crown of hooks and the suckers. Taenia saginata, the disease is known as Taeniasis. Larvae do not cause cysticercosis. Intermediate host is cattle. Adult worm has a scolex with 4 suckers. Suckers are present, but there are no hooks in Taenia saginata, and it is found in the beef muscle. Okay, and gravid proglottids have 15 to 20 primary uterine branches. Here in Taenia solium, the number of branches is less. It is 5 to 10 branches or up to 15 branches. And here 15 to 25 branches. So the gravid proglottids, the branches are more here in Taenia saginata. Length of the worm, it can reach up to 10 meters. I've shown you the picture at the start of the this section of cystodes. So Taenia saginata, see, it can reach up to 10 meters. So my question to you is, which of these 2 Taenias, one has got a row of hooks Which worm has got row of hooks for anchorage? Come on, write down in your chat box. Quick, quick. Taenia solium, Taenia solium, Taenia solium. ठीक है, मेरे बच्चे अभी जाग रहे हैं. Thank you, thank you. ठीक है. अच्छा, transmission. Humans are infected by eating raw or undercooked beef containing larvae. Larvae attached to the intestinal wall grow into adult worm. Gravid proglottids detach, pass in the feces, and are eaten by the cattle. अब ये है कि हम डायग्नोसिस जो है प्रोग्लॉटिड के थ्रू कर सकते हैं या एग्स के थ्रू, दोनों ही ऑब्जर्व कर सकते हैं इन द लेबोरेटरी. आइदर द person will come and complain that this whitish thing is coming in my stool, or due to some abdominal discomfort, diarrhea or constipation, they will come to you and say, and you will suggest them stool DR and you will find the eggs. Sometimes eggs are seen also. Clinical findings: most patients with adult worm are asymptomatic, but malaise and mild cramps can occur. And in some patients, proglottid appear in the stool and even protrude from anus. They are motile. Now the third one is Diphyllobothrium latum, and the disease it causes is known as Diphyllobothriasis. First intermediate host is copepod crustacea. This is a small crustacean, small inside the body of the water. And then second intermediate host is freshwater fish. And the definitive host is human being. Now, please note down that this is the longest tapeworm. Okay, longest tapeworm. कभी-कभी पूछ लेते हैं कि सिस्टोड्स में जो लॉन्गेस्ट वर्म है वो कौन सा है, तो आपको आना चाहिए कि ये डायफाइलोबोथ्रियम लेटम है, और यहाँ इसके सक्कर्स वगैरह नहीं होते, यहाँ इसके बोथ्रियाज होते हैं, और बोथ्रियाज आर known as lips. अब ग्रीक है या लैटिन है, you have to check this thing. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Bothria means lips, and through these lips they get attached to the intestine and deprive the human being from their nutrition. So they can reach up to 13 meters. 13 meters. Okay. Longest tapeworm is Diphyllobothrium latum. You can see these are the segments. ये जो मैं आपको बात बता रही थी कि डॉट मैट्रिक्स का पेपर जैसे होता है, ये देखिए प्रोग्लॉटिड्स कैसे अटैच किए हुए होते हैं और ठकाठक के निकलते रहते हैं. ये क्रस्टेशिया होता है, कोपेपोड क्रस्टेशिया. दे आर ईटन अप बाय द फिश एंड देन दिस worm develops in the muscle of the fish and is transmitted in uncooked or improperly cooked fish. Okay. हमारे यहाँ कम चांसेस हैं क्योंकि हम तो उसको डीप फ्राई करते हैं, हम तो बहुत ज्यादा पकाते हैं और फिर खाते हैं, तो देयर आर चांसेस बट लेस चांसेस. ज्यादातर इट विल बी कॉमनर वेयर द फिश इज ईटन रॉ, like Scandinavian countries, Russia, northern Canada. Sushi in Japanese, like people who like sushi. Okay, humans are infected. मगर ये भी बात है कि जापानीज सबसे ज्यादा जिंदा रहते हैं, तो maybe not. Humans are infected by ingesting raw undercooked fish containing larvae. Larvae attached to the gut wall develop into adult worm. Okay. And this will cause megaloblastic anemia because of its preference of vitamin B12. It causes deficiency in the host. मगर ये चीज भी आप याद रखिएगा These parasites, इनका फायदा इसी में होता है कि होस्ट जिंदा रहे. They don't deprive so that the person dies. वो जिंदा रहे ताकि वो उसकी न्यूट्रिशन लेते रहे. ठीक है, इसीलिए उसको पैरासाइट कहते हैं. Some patients are asymptomatic and some have abdominal discomfort and diarrhea. Okay. So, ये आप एग को देखेंगे तो एग में एक पर्टिकुलर चीज है, ये चीज लिड की तरह है. ऑपरक्यूलेटेड एग्स होते हैं जो कि इसमें कॉमन होते हैं. सो नेक्स्ट टाइम व्हेन यू आर ईटिंग सुशी, थिंक ट्वाइस. अच्छी जगह से खाएं, ठीक है, जिसका आपको पता हो कि ये सही होगा. यू कैन ईट सुशी जहां ये लिखा हुआ हो कि our sushi does not contain raw fish. ठीक है. Now the last but not the least is Echinococcus granulosus. The disease it causes, larvae of Echinococcus granulosus or dog tapeworm cause unilocular cyst or hydatid cyst disease. It causes severe complications and goes to distant organs like liver, brain, lungs. They can form cysts there, and the content of the cysts are highly allerging. They produce hypersensitivity reaction or anaphylactic reaction in the body. So doctor or the surgeon has to take ultimate care to take out these cysts unruptured, so that the contents should not be released inside the body cavity. Otherwise, they are going to cause a severe reaction. So intermediate host is sheep and the definitive host is dog. Sheep eats the grass which is contaminated with the dog feces, having this parasite. The distribution is worldwide, मगर वही कॉमन होगा जहां sheep rearing country या cattle goat and sheep rearing countries होंगे, like Middle East, China, USA, Africa, India, Pakistan, and Australia. And now you have to remember this is the smallest स्मॉलेस्ट है ये, क्योंकि इसके तो 3 ही पार्ट है ना. आप देखो, 1 स्कोलेक्स, 1 प्रोग्लॉटिड, 2nd प्रोग्लॉटिड and 3rd प्रोग्लॉटिड. Only 3 proglottids are there. It has got circle of hooks and 4 suckers. Transmission is direct contact with infected dogs, eating in the same dish as dog, uncooked vegetables contaminated with animal feces. Life cycle: worm in dog intestine lay eggs. Eggs are ingested by the sheep. Embryo emerges in intestine and migrate to liver, lungs, bones, and brain. Develop into fluid-filled hydatid cyst. Okay. Slaughtered sheep containing hydrated cysts, they are eaten by the dog. That's how the dogs can be contaminated with this parasite. See? Dog eating the sheep's liver, or the other cycle which is going on is it is released here, develop into adult worm, and then eggs are ingested accidentally by the human being. So these are the 2 routes that can happen in the Echinococcus granulosus. Okay. Echinococcus granulosus forms 1 large fluid-filled cyst. Cysts act as a space-occupying lesion, putting pressure on adjacent tissue. If cyst ruptures, life-threatening anaphylactic reaction occurs. This we have discussed already. Clinical findings, many individuals with hydrated cysts are asymptomatic. Liver cyst may cause hepatic dysfunction. Cyst in the lung erode into the bronchus, causing bloody sputum. Cerebral cysts cause headaches, neurologic symptoms. It's obvious. So, in Echinococcus granulosis cyst, what you will be able to observe, this is the thing. It is enlarged many times. You should, and it is a diagrammatic representation. You should understand that this pre-cystic part, it is derived from the host. It is thick, fibrous part, which is pericyst. Then is the ectocyst and endocyst, which is the germinal layer where these parasites will develop. These are known as brood capsules, multiple ones. These are known as brood capsules, having the germinal center and the parasite inside them. And then daughter cyst, individual protoscolio, these parasites which are lying here at the bottom, they are known as hydrated cyst. The fluid inside this cyst is highly anaphylotoxic, cause anaphylactic reaction in the body. So you can see cysts here in the brain like this and in the liver. Okay. Lab diagnosis can be from these tests: ELISA, Cassoni test, blood eosinophilia, indirect heme agglutination test, latex agglutination test, X-ray, ultrasound, CT scan, and histopathological examination, through which we can see these cysts in the body and then treat them accordingly. So this was prevention is thoroughly washing vegetables and salads, hand washing before handling food and petting animals, deworming the animals, and better personal hygiene. So what we have to do, infected undercooked, we have to avoid this. Undercooked fish, we should avoid. Infected undercooked meat, we have to avoid. And कोरोना ने तो हमको ये सिखा दिया है कि बार-बार हाथ धोना है, बार-बार हाथ धोना है, बार-बार हाथ धोना है. I cannot emphasize more. So hand hygiene is the number one, okay, in parasitic infection. और आपको तो दूसरों को treat करना है, तो you have to be in best of your health and hygiene. Okay, and this concludes my lecture today, and in the last we will follow this flow chart: intestinal nematodes, larvae in the stool may be due to Strongyloidiasis tuberculosis, eggs in the stool may be due to Escherichia lumbricoides, Trichinosis trachura, and Ankylostoma dutitale. So these will be, we will follow. Or eggs on the perianal skin, you should better remember this, Enterobius vermicularis. So this concludes our lecture today. And if you have any questions, you can write in the chat box. Which worm infestation is most common? Very good question by Sidrat. Okay. What I have seen in my laboratory practice is Escherichia lumbricoides. Sometimes hookworms are also seen. H. nana, E. histolytica, Trichinosis trachura, Enterobius vermicularis. These are all I have seen in my laboratory practice. So these are common. You should know their what is rectal prolapse? What happens? Because there is intense feeling to get rid of these parasites. The person goes frequently to the washroom, and due to increased purging, there is the rectum comes out of the anus. That is known as rectal prolapse. Hamad. Okay. और which worm is most common in Pakistan? सिदरत का जवाब दे दिया है मैंने, ठीक है. Any other question? Can liver flu can affect human beings? Yes, but we are not discussing liver flu today. In today's lecture, we are not discussing today. Okay, any other question? Any question? Okay. So we'll discuss on Friday. We will be discussing cysticercosis and leishmaniasis. What is occult blood? Aisha Altaf. Okay. Occult blood is actually the blood which you cannot see by your naked eye. It is hidden because it's not obvious. The stool is not red in color, brown in color. And we test it when we suspect some worm infestation, because these worms, when they puncture intestinal lumen, take their nutrition from the blood of the human being, the blood oozes there. Okay, so this blood is excreted in the stool also. So in certain parasitic infection, we do this test. Dog is the definitive host, and sheep is the intermediate host in Echinococcus. When dog is I told you, when you are sharing the utensil in which dog is eating, you are eating also. And if the fur of the dog or the hair of the dog is contaminated, you can accidentally ingest those. Okay? This was question from, and naam nahi likha hua. Madam, is the larva migrans treatable? Yes. Yes, we can treat them. Okay. Thank you. Saad Irfan. Muiz. Thank you. Muiz. Thank you. See you on Friday. Okay? Bye. Okay. Thank you. शारिक, आप मुझे सुन सकते हैं? टाइम हो गया.
यस मैडम. जी मैडम.
ठीक है, मैंने खत्म कर दिया है.
ओके मैडम, मैं लेक्चर एंड कर लेता हूँ. अल्लाह हाफिज़.
हाँ, थैंक यू. खुदा हाफिज़.